I smile at the reflection in the mirror, but my hands are shaking. The silk of my wedding gown feels like cool water against my skin. For 3 years, I built a life with Mark. He is kind, steady, and patient. He is everything I ever wanted. My parents passed away when I was in college, leaving me with a modest inheritance and a deep, aching void where a family should be. When Mark proposed, I didn't just see a husband. I saw a mother-in-law, a father-in-law, and a seat at a Sunday dinner table that would finally belong to me. Evelyn, Mark's mother, sits on the velvet chaise lounge behind me. She's sipping champagne, her eyes tracking every movement of the seamstress pinning my hem. Evelyn is the definition of old money elegance. She wears pearls like armor and speaks in a soft, melodic tone that masks a razor-sharp edge. Since the day we met, she has treated me like a project, a stray puppy that needed grooming, training, and, most importantly, polishing. "The lace is a bit much, don't you think, Clara?" she asks, her voice airy. It's very loud. In our circle, we prefer things to be understated. But I suppose it suits your background. I swallow the lump in my throat and force a smile. I've learned to translate Evelyn speak over the years. Understated means boring. Your background is code for penniless orphan. I tell myself she means well. She's just protective of Mark. He's her only son, the golden boy of the sterling real estate empire. I'm just the girl from the public library who captured his heart. I trusted them. I truly believed that if I worked hard enough, if I was polite enough, and if I learned which fork to use for the salad, Evelyn would eventually love me. I spent my weekends helping her garden, listening to her stories about the sterling heritage, and nodding when she complained about Mark's father, Richard, who walked out on them 20 years ago. Mark enters the room, his eyes lighting up when he sees me. He wraps his arms around my waist, pressing a kiss to my temple. "You look breathtaking, Clara," he whispers. For a moment, the tension in the room evaporates. I feel safe. I feel like I finally belong somewhere. But then I see Evelyn's reflection in the glass. She isn't looking at Mark. She is looking at me with a cold, clinical detachment. The smile she wears for her son doesn't reach her eyes. In that moment, a chill runs down my spine. I realize that to Evelyn, I am not a person. I am a variable in an equation she is trying to solve. "The guest list is finalized, dear," Evelyn says, setting her glass down with a definitive clink. "I've taken the liberty of removing those friends of yours from the university. We need to make room for the board members and the senator. This isn't just a party, it's a statement." My heart sinks. Those friends are the only family I have left. I look at Mark, waiting for him to defend me, but he just shrugs. "Mom knows how these things work, Clara. It's just for one night. We'll have a private dinner with them later." I feel invisible. My voice, my desires, my history, they are all being erased to fit the sterling brand. I tell myself it's a small price to pay for a lifetime of security. I tell myself that once the rings are on our fingers, things will change. I have no idea that the nightmare is only just beginning. The wedding is only 2 weeks away when the mask finally slips. I come home early from the library, my arms full of research books. The house is quiet, but I hear voices coming from the sunroom. It's Evelyn and her sister, Lydia. They're laughing, a sharp, mocking sound that stops me in my tracks. She actually thinks the wedding is happening at the Botanical Gardens. Evelyn says, her voice dripping with disdain, "I've already called the venue and the caterers. Everything is being redirected to the country club. I've even drafted the cancellation emails for her side of the list." I freeze. The books in my arms feel like lead weights. I press myself against the wall, my breath coming in short, jagged gasps. This can't be real. I've spent months planning every detail of that garden wedding. It was the only part of the day that felt like me. "And Mark," Lydia asks, "is he really going through with the accidental breakup?" Of course, Evelyn scoffs. "He's a sterling. He knows his duty. He's had his fun with the librarian, but he's not going to throw away his inheritance for a girl with no pedigree. We've managed the narrative perfectly. By next week, Clara will be the unstable ex who couldn't handle the pressure, and Mark will be the grieving bachelor comforted by the Vanderbilt heiress. The world tilts on its axis. My stomach churns, and for a second, I think I might be sick. It wasn't just Evelyn. It was Mark, my fiancé. The man I thought was my soulmate was just waiting for his mother to give the signal to discard me. I hear footsteps approaching the door. I scramble into the hallway closet, pulling the door shut just as they walk past. Through the slats, I see Evelyn's face. She looks triumphant. She looks like she's just won a long, tedious game of chess. I'll send the official cancellation from the planner's email tomorrow. Evelyn says Clara won't even know what hit her until she shows up to an empty garden in a white dress. It'll be the perfect ending to this little farce. I stay in that closet for what feels like hours. The darkness is heavy, pressing in on me. I thought I was building a future, but I was actually building a cage. Every "I love you," every promise, every late-night conversation, it was all a lie. They were never going to let me into their world. They were just waiting for the right moment to destroy mine. That was the moment everything changed. The girl who wanted to be loved died in that closet. When I finally step out, my eyes are dry, and my heart is cold. They think I'm a victim. They think I'm a fragile little bird they can crush under their heels. They have no idea who they're dealing with. I spend the next 3 days in a trance of grief. I go to work, I come home, and I sit across from Mark at dinner, watching him play the part of the doting fiancé. It's sickening. Every time he touches my hand, I want to scream. Every time he mentions our future kids, I have to bite my tongue to keep from spitting in his face. The betrayal isn't just a wound, it's an infection. It seeps into my dreams. I see the empty garden. I see the mocking faces of the Sterlings. I feel the weight of my own invisibility. I gave up everything for this man. I gave up my career goals, my friends, and my dignity, all to fit into a mold that was designed to break me. I realize now that Evelyn didn't just want to cancel the wedding. She wanted to erase me. She wanted to prove that I was nothing without them. She wanted to humiliate me so thoroughly that I would never dare to show my face in this town again. I find the cancellation email in my junk folder on Thursday. It's cold and professional, signed by a fake assistant at the wedding planning agency. I check the venue. Evelyn was right. They've officially canceled the garden, citing unforeseen circumstances. When I call the caterer, they tell me the contract has been transferred to a private event at the Sterling estate on the same date. They aren't just canceling my wedding. They're replacing it with a Sterling gala to celebrate Mark's new partnership and, I suspect, his new engagement. They're using my wedding date, my guest list, and my hard work to launch the next phase of Mark's life without me. The emotional collapse is total. I spend the night on the floor of my bathroom, sobbing until my throat is raw. I feel so small, so utterly used. I trusted them with the fragments of my heart, and they ground them into the dirt. But in the middle of the night, something shifts. The sadness turns into a low, steady hum of rage. I remember something Evelyn told me once, back when she thought I was a harmless pet. She was drunk on expensive sherry and complaining about Richard, Mark's father. He was a monster, she had hissed, a common thief who tried to ruin the Sterling name. Thank God I had the ironclad NDA and the restraining order. If he ever showed his face in this town again, I'd be ruined. She had made Richard out to be a villain, but I had seen the way her eyes darted around the room when she spoke. It wasn't fear. It was guilt. I realized then that I don't know the whole story. I only know Evelyn's version. And if Evelyn lied about me, what else has she lied about for 20 years? I start digging. I spend my lunch breaks at the library, not working but scouring old archives and public records. I use my access to genealogical databases and private archives. If there is a secret in the Sterling family, I will find it. They think I'm just a librarian? Fine. I'll show them exactly what a librarian can do. It takes 4 days of obsessive searching to find the truth. I find a small, buried court filing from 20 years ago in a neighboring county. It wasn't a restraining order against Richard Sterling. It was a whistleblower lawsuit. Richard hadn't walked out on his family. He had discovered that Evelyn's father, the founder of the empire, had been laundering money through offshore accounts for decades. When Richard tried to go to the authorities, Evelyn had used her family's power to silence him. She had framed him for embezzlement, stripped him of his assets, and forced him into a disappearance to save the Sterling name. Richard Sterling didn't run away. He was exiled. And the most shocking part? He wasn't the monster Evelyn described. I find an old photo of him in a local newspaper from the 90s. He's standing in front of a community center he funded. He has the same kind eyes as Mark, or the man I thought Mark was. I track him down to a small town 3 states away. He's living under his middle name, running a small hardware store. I call him, my heart hammering against my ribs. I expect him to hang up, but when I tell him who I am and what Evelyn is doing, there is a long, heavy silence on the line. She's doing it again, he says, his voice gravelly and tired. She destroys anything she can't control. I'm not going to let her destroy me, I say, my voice firm for the first time in weeks. And I don't think she should be allowed to keep your story buried anymore. We talk for hours. He tells me the truth about the Sterling legacy. It's built on a foundation of lies, theft, and intimidation. He tells me about the documents he still has, the ones Evelyn thought she destroyed. He's been waiting for 20 years for someone to believe him. I feel a surge of power. They thought I wouldn't fight back. They thought I was a ghost. But ghosts have a way of haunting the people who made them. I don't need a wedding. I don't need Mark. I need justice, and I know exactly how to get it. I begin my strategic comeback with the precision of a general. I don't confront Mark. I don't tell Evelyn I know. Instead, I play the part of the heartbroken, oblivious bride-to-be even better than before. I even cry a little at dinner complaining about wedding nerves just to give them the satisfaction of seeing me weak. Behind the scenes, I am a whirlwind. I contact the local press, the hungry, independent journalists who have always been blocked by the Sterling PR machine. I promise them the story of the decade, the return of the exiled patriarch, and the truth behind the Sterling fortune. I don't cancel my wedding invitations. Instead, I send out a correction via a private digital service. I tell the guests that the venue has changed to the Sterling estate, Evelyn's home, for a special surprise ceremony. I make sure the timing overlaps perfectly with the gala Evelyn is planning. Then I book a flight for Richard. He arrives 2 days before the wedding. I meet him at a small motel on the outskirts of town. He looks older than the photos, but he has a quiet dignity that the rest of the Sterlings lack. When he sees the documents I've gathered, he nods. It's time, Clara, for both of us. I spend the night before the event at a hotel, leaving a note for Mark saying I'm staying with a friend to de-stress before the big day. He doesn't even call to check on me. He's too busy preparing for his liberation. I spend that night looking at my wedding dress. I don't feel sad anymore. I feel like a soldier putting on armor. I've spent years trying to fit into their world, trying to be the perfect daughter-in-law. Tomorrow, I'm going to tear that world down. I have a final meeting with the journalists. We coordinate the reveal. They will be positioned as event photographers at the gala. I've given them copies of Richard's documents. They have the proof of the money laundering, the framing of Richard, and the systematic manipulation of the town's real estate market. Everything is in place. Evelyn thinks she is hosting a victory party. Mark thinks he is escaping a burden. They have no idea that the guest of honor isn't the senator or the Vanderbilt heiress. It's the man they thought they had erased from history. The Sterling estate is glowing. Thousands of fairy lights drape the ancient oaks, and a jazz band plays softly near the infinity pool. It's a scene of pure, unadulterated wealth. Evelyn is in her element, wearing a gown that costs more than my college tuition, holding a glass of vintage champagne. Mark is by her side, looking every bit the heir apparent, shaking hands with the city's elite. They think I'm at the Botanical Gardens, standing alone in the rain. I arrive at 8 p.m. I'm not wearing the lace wedding dress. I'm wearing a sleek midnight black gown that fits like a second skin. I walk through the front gates with Richard on my arm. He's in a tailored tuxedo, looking every bit the sterling he was born to be. The security guards, confused by the correction on the guest list, let us through. As we walk toward the main terrace, the music seems to falter. People start to whisper. Richard hasn't been seen in 20 years, but his face is unmistakable. He is the ghost that has haunted this family for 2 decades, and now he is walking among them. We reach the center of the terrace just as Evelyn is raising her glass for a toast. She sees me first, and her face turns a sickly shade of gray. Then her eyes shift to the man beside me. She drops her glass. The sound of shattering crystal rings out like a gunshot. "Richard," she gasps, her voice trembling. "Hello, Evelyn," Richard says, his voice calm and resonant. "It's been a long time. I hear you're throwing a party. I thought I'd bring the truth as a gift." The crowd goes silent. Mark looks like he's seen a phantom. He steps forward, his mouth agape. "Dad." I step into the center of the circle. "Actually, Mark, your mother told me your father was dead. Or a criminal. Or both. It's hard to keep track of the lies in this house, isn't it?" The photographers I hired step forward, their flashes exploding like lightning. Evelyn tries to regain her composure, her eyes darting around for a way out. "This is an outrage. Security, remove these people." "I wouldn't do that," Evelyn, one of the journalists, says, holding up a digital tablet. "We've already gone live. The documents Richard provided, the ones showing how you framed him and hid the offshore accounts, are being read by 20,000 people right now, including the district attorney. The panic in the room is palpable. The wealthy guests start to back away from Evelyn as if she's contagious. Mark looks at me, his eyes full of a pathetic, desperate confusion. "Clara, what are you doing?" "You were supposed to break up with me, Mark." I interrupt, my voice ringing clear across the terrace. "I heard you and your mother laughing about it. I heard the plan to leave me at the altar while you moved on to someone with a pedigree. You didn't just try to cancel a wedding. You tried to cancel me." I walk up to him, close enough to see the sweat on his brow. "But the thing about librarians, Mark, is that we know how to find things. And I found the man you were taught to hate. It turns out he's the only sterling with a soul." Evelyn lunges toward me, her face contorted with rage. "You little gutter rat. You've ruined everything. We gave you everything. You gave me nothing but a front row seat to your own rot," I say, stepping back. "I don't want your name. I don't want your money. And I certainly don't want your son." I turn to the crowd, to the cameras, and to the woman who tried to destroy me. The sterling legacy is over. It's not built on land or luxury. It's built on the bodies of the people you stepped on to get here. Well, I'm standing up now. Richard steps forward, handing a thick folder to the lead journalist. "This is the rest of it. The bank records, the emails, the proof of the shell companies. It's all there. The police arrive 20 minutes later. They don't come for me. They come for Evelyn." As she is led away in handcuffs, screaming about her reputation, Mark stands alone in the middle of his ruined gala. He looks small. He looks like the coward he always was. I walk out of the Sterling estate without looking back. Richard follows me, and we stand at the gates for a moment, breathing in the cool night air. The weight that has been on my chest for 3 years is gone. I am no longer a project. I am no longer a variable. I lost the man I thought I loved. I lost the family I thought I needed. I lost the future I thought I wanted. But as I look at the stars, I realize I've gained something much more valuable. I've gained the truth. I've gained my voice. And for the first time in my life, I am not invisible. The news the next morning is a whirlwind of scandal and arrests. The Sterling Empire is crumbling, and I am the one who pulled the thread. People call me a hero, a gold digger, a vengeful ex. It doesn't matter what they call me. I know who I am. Sometimes losing your family is the price of finding yourself.